The mop bucket wheels squeaked against the metal floor as Rebecca Walsh pushed it down the empty corridor. Her shift started at midnight when most people were sleeping. She liked it that way. The silence felt peaceful after years of noisy crowds and demanding supervisors during day shifts. Now she cleaned alone, moving through the research center like a ghost. Rebecca was 34 years old and tired. Not just tired from work, but tired deep in her bones. She worked here on New Terra Station because the pay was better than anything on Earth. Every credit she earned went straight to the hospital bills. Her younger brother needed treatments that cost more than most people made in a year. So she cleaned floors and emptied trash bins and tried not to think about how unfair life could be. Tonight felt different somehow. The air seemed heavier. Rebecca paused outside Section 7, the restricted research wing. She had clearance to clean there, but something made her hesitate. Through the thick glass window, she could see dim lighting and rows of containment cells. Most were empty. Budget cuts meant fewer research projects these days. Then she heard it. A sound so faint she almost missed it. A wheezing breath, struggling and painful. Rebecca pressed closer to the glass. In the far corner, something massive lay curled in shadow. She squinted, trying to see better in the poor light. Her hand found the door controls before her brain could talk her out of it. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Rebecca stepped inside, leaving her cleaning cart behind. The temperature dropped immediately. They kept this section cold for some reason. Her breath came out in small clouds. The breathing sound grew louder as she approached the last containment cell. Rebecca's hands trembled as she looked inside. A dragon lay sprawled across the floor. Not a small creature from children's stories, but something ancient and enormous. Even lying down, he was twice her height. His scales were a dull gray color, like ash after a fire burns out. His ribs showed clearly under loose skin. One wing was folded awkwardly beneath him. Rebecca had seen animals die before. She grew up on a farm before moving to the city. She recognized that look in his eyes. The dragon was starving to death. A tablet hung on the wall outside the cell. Rebecca grabbed it with shaking hands. The research notes appeared on screen. Subject classified as non-sentient. Final specimen from Outer Rim collection. Metabolism study in progress. Current feeding schedule. Minimal sustenance to extend observation period. The words made her stomach turn. They were starving him on purpose. For science, for data, for numbers on a chart. The dragon's eye opened slightly. It was a deep gold color like honey held up to sunlight. He looked at her without moving. There was something in that look. Something that made Rebecca's chest hurt. She knew about the cameras. 6 of them covered every angle of this section. She knew about the rules. Interfering with active research meant immediate termination. Theft of research materials meant criminal charges. She knew all of this. Rebecca also knew she couldn't walk away. The storage room was 3 doors down. Her ID card opened it without trouble. Inside, stacks of nutrient containers lined the shelves. Each one was labeled and logged into the inventory system. Taking even one would trigger alerts. Taking several would bring security running. Rebecca grabbed 4 containers. They were heavy, meant for large specimens. She carried them back to the cell, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The cell door required a supervisor code. Rebecca didn't have one. But she did have a maintenance override key. Every cleaner carried one for emergencies. She had never used hers before. The key slot was hidden behind a panel. Her fingers fumbled with it twice before the lock clicked open. The dragon's eye tracked her as she entered his cell. He didn't move. Probably couldn't move. Rebecca set down the containers and opened the first one. The smell of protein paste filled the air. Not pleasant, but nutritious. "Hey there," Rebecca whispered. Her voice sounded too loud in the quiet room. "I know you're hurting. I know you're hungry. Let me help." She had no idea if he could understand her. The research note said non-sentient. But those eyes didn't look empty to her. They looked aware. They looked like someone was home behind them. Rebecca scooped paste onto her hand and held it near the dragon's mouth. He didn't move at first. Then slowly his tongue emerged. It was careful, gentle. He took the food without touching her skin. Then he took another scoop, and another. She fed him all 4 containers. It took 20 minutes. The dragon ate slowly, savoring each bite like it might be his last. Maybe he thought it would be. When the containers were empty, Rebecca sat back on her heels. The dragon's breathing sounded easier now. Less ragged. "You're not just an animal, are you?" Rebecca said softly. "I can see it in your eyes. Someone's in there." The dragon blinked slowly, Once, twice, like an answer. The lights in the corridor suddenly brightened. Footsteps echoed from multiple directions. Heavy boots moving fast. Rebecca's stomach dropped. Security. They came through the door in tactical gear, weapons drawn. 5 officers surrounded her in seconds. One grabbed her arm and pulled her away from the dragon. Another was already scanning the empty containers. "Rebecca Walsh, you're under arrest," the lead officer said. His voice was flat and professional. "Theft of research materials. Interference with active xenobiological studies. Breach of containment protocols." Rebecca didn't fight. She let them pull her arms behind her back. The restraints clicked around her wrists. Cold metal against skin. She looked back at the dragon one last time. He had lifted his head slightly. Those gold eyes watched her being taken away. For just a moment, Rebecca could have sworn she saw something in his expression. Recognition, maybe, or gratitude. Something passed between them in that look. Something important. "Move," the officer said, pushing her toward the door. As they led her away, Rebecca heard sounds from the cell behind her, the dragon shifting position. A long, low rumble that might have been a growl or might have been something else entirely. She twisted to look back, but the officers blocked her view. The walk to security detention felt like it took hours. Other workers had gathered in the corridors, woken by the commotion. They stared as she passed. Rebecca kept her head up. She wasn't ashamed. Let them stare. The holding cell was small and cold. They took her ID card, her station access, her personal communicator, everything that marked her as an employee of New Terra Station. A supervisor she had never met appeared with termination papers. He didn't look at her while he spoke. "You're fired. Effective immediately. Your station housing access ends in 24 hours. You'll be transferred to deportee processing and sent back to Earth on the next available transport. Criminal charges are pending review." "Sign here." Rebecca signed. Her hand didn't shake. She felt strangely calm. "Was it worth it?" the supervisor asked. He sounded genuinely curious. Rebecca looked up at him. "Yes." He shook his head and left. The cell door locked behind him with a solid click. Rebecca sat on the hard bench and closed her eyes. In 3 days, she would be on a transport back to Earth, back to a planet where she couldn't find work that paid enough for her brother's treatments. Back to failure and poverty and watching someone she loved die slowly. But when she thought about the dragon's eyes, about that moment of connection, she felt no regret. She had done the right thing. Sometimes that was all a person could do. Sometimes it had to be enough. In his cell 3 levels away, the dragon lay with his head raised. His breathing was steady now, stronger. For the first time in longer than he could remember, his stomach didn't ache with emptiness, and for the first time in even longer, something else stirred inside him. Hope. Draven had not spoken in 3 years. Not since the hunters came. Not since they killed his mother and siblings while he watched from a cave too small for adult dragons to enter. He was young then, barely 50 years old. Just a child by dragon standards. His kind had learned long ago that silence kept them safe. Speaking drew attention. Intelligence made other species nervous. Better to let them think dragons were nothing more than clever beasts. Better to hide in plain sight or not be seen at all. But hiding had not saved his family. Poachers wanted dragon scales for armor, dragon bones for medicine, dragon hearts for trophies. The galactic black market paid fortunes for dragon parts, so they hunted, and dragons died. Draven stopped running after they captured him. He let the nets take him, let them put him in a cage. Let them sell him to researchers who poked and prodded and studied him like he was an interesting rock. He had given up. Death felt easier than remembering. Then that human woman came. Rebecca. He had heard the security officers say her name when they arrested her. Rebecca Walsh, she fed him. More than that, she spoke to him like he mattered. Like he was a person, not a thing. Her voice was soft and kind. Her hands were gentle. She risked everything for a stranger she thought was just an animal. Draven lay in his cell and thought about that. About kindness. About sacrifice. About what it meant when someone chose compassion over safety. The research center was quiet now. Early hours before the day shift arrived, Draven's hearing was excellent. He listened to conversations happening rooms away, footsteps in distant corridors, the hum of life support systems, and voices, always voices. "Did you hear about the cleaner who stole from the research wing?" Someone said. 2 technicians walking past his section. Rebecca Walsh? Yeah, everyone's talking about it. Fired and blacklisted. They're sending her back to Earth. What was she thinking? Throwing away her job for some animal? I heard she has family medical bills. Earth hospitals aren't cheap. Without station wages, she's finished. The voices faded. Draven's claws scraped against the floor. Rebecca was being punished because of him. Because she showed him mercy. The thought burned hotter than any fire his kind could breathe. More voices. Different ones. These came from the research director's office. Draven focused his hearing. We need to accelerate the termination schedule, Director Park said. The subject's metabolism data is compromised. No point keeping it alive now. Termination? That was a younger scientist. You mean euthanasia? I mean we're putting it down tomorrow. The dragon's worthless to us now. Update the schedule, tomorrow. They would kill him tomorrow. Draven took a deep breath. His first full breath in months. The food Rebecca brought had given him strength. Not much, but enough. Enough for what he needed to do. He opened his mouth. His voice came out rough from disuse. The words felt strange on his tongue after years of silence. No. The lights in his cell flickered. Draven spoke louder. No. You will not kill me. Alarms started blaring. Red emergency lights flashed. Within seconds, security officers poured into the section. They stopped dead when they saw him. Draven sat up. His wings unfolded, stretching to their full span. Even malnourished and weak, he was impressive. Did that thing just talk? One officer whispered. Call the director, another said. Call everyone now. Within minutes, the observation room outside Draven's cell filled with people. Researchers, security, administrators. They stared at him like he was a bomb about to explode. Director Park pushed through the crowd. His face had gone pale. This is impossible, Park said. Our tests showed no linguistic capacity. Your tests showed what you wanted them to show, Draven said. His voice was cold. You classified me as non-sentient because it made your research legal. But I think we both know the truth. The room erupted in panicked conversation. Park held up his hand for silence. If you're sentient, why didn't you speak before? Why should I speak to people who cage me? Who starve me? Who plan to kill me? Draven's eyes narrowed. I was content to die quietly. Until Rebecca Walsh showed me not all humans are like you. The cleaner. Park looked confused. What does she have to do with this? She saved my life. She risked everything for a stranger. By the ancient laws of my people, I owe her a life debt. The room went silent. Even Park seemed to understand the implications. Life debt was an old galactic law. Most species had some version of it. If Draven was sentient, if he claimed life debt, the station would have to honor it. You can't prove any of this, Park said finally. This could be some kind of trick. Call your lawyers, Draven said. I will wait. But know this. If I am sentient, everything you have done to me is illegal. Torture, imprisonment, attempted murder. The charges will destroy this facility. Park's face went from pale to red. He turned and started barking orders. People scattered. Within an hour, the station's legal team assembled outside Draven's cell. They brought scanning equipment, tablets full of precedent cases, books of galactic law that hadn't been opened in decades. Draven answered their questions. He discussed philosophy and mathematics. He recited poetry from 6 different cultures. He explained the history of his species in detail that no non-sentient creature could possibly know. Every answer proved what he already knew. He was a person. He always had been. Meanwhile, Rebecca sat in deportee processing 3 levels down. The holding area was crowded with people who had lost their station jobs. Some slept on benches, others argued with processing clerks. Rebecca just sat and tried not to think about her brother. Her communicator had been confiscated, so she couldn't even send him a message. Couldn't explain why the money would stop coming. Couldn't say goodbye properly. The transport to Earth left in 2 days. After that, she would have nothing. A commotion erupted at the processing desk. Security officers were arguing with someone. Rebecca couldn't hear the words, but she recognized the uniform. Station Legal Department, Rebecca Walsh. A woman in a sharp suit approached. I'm Bristol. I need you to come with me. Why? Am I being charged? No, you're being summoned. The dragon wants to speak with you. Rebecca's legs felt weak as she stood. The dragon? He's alive? Very much so. And apparently he has a lot to say. They walked through corridors Rebecca had cleaned 1,000 times. Now she was escorted like a guest. Or a prisoner. She couldn't tell which. Bristol didn't explain anything, just walked with quick, precise steps. The research wing was packed with people, camera crews, station officials, legal observers. They parted as Rebecca approached. Every eye followed her. She felt small and exposed. Then she saw him. The dragon, Draven. He sat upright in his cell, looking healthier than before. His scales had gained some color. His eyes were bright and alert. When he saw Rebecca, something changed in his expression. A softness, Rebecca Walsh, Draven said. His voice rolled like distant thunder. I owe you my life. Rebecca couldn't speak. Her mind couldn't process what was happening. Dragons didn't talk. They were animals, weren't they? I invoke life debt, Draven continued. By the old laws that bind all sentient beings. You saved me when you owed me nothing. Now I am bound to repay that kindness. I don't understand, Rebecca managed to say. I am not an animal. I never was. My people are traders and travelers. We carry goods between stars. We have been doing so for thousands of years. Draven's wings shifted. I was captured while mourning my family. I let them take me because I had nothing left to live for. You gave me a reason to live again. Director Park stepped forward. This is all very dramatic, but it changes nothing. Walsh is a criminal. She's being deported. She saved a sentient being from torture, Bristol said sharply. That makes her a hero, not a criminal. We have laws about interfering with research. You have laws about torturing sentient beings too, Draven said. Would you like me to contact the Galactic Ethics Board? I'm sure they would be fascinated by your research methods. Park's face went purple. He opened his mouth to argue, but Bristol cut him off. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop all charges against Rebecca Walsh. You're going to release Draven from custody, and you're going to pray he doesn't decide to sue this facility into dust. And if we refuse? Park said. Draven smiled. It was not a comforting expression. Then I will speak. I will tell every news outlet in the galaxy what happened here. I will name every person involved. I will show them the footage of me starving in this cell while you took notes. The silence stretched. Park looked around the room, seeing his career ending in real time. Fine, he said finally. Release them both. The cell door opened. Draven stepped out carefully. He was massive in the open space. People backed away instinctively, but Draven ignored them. He walked to Rebecca and lowered his head until his eyes were level with hers. Thank you, he said softly. Rebecca reached out with a trembling hand and touched his scales. They were warm, solid, real. You're welcome, she whispered. Bristol cleared her throat. We should go now before they change their minds. Where? Rebecca asked. Draven's eyes glinted. I have a delivery to make. Medical supplies to a frontier colony. The payment will be substantial. Enough to cover your brother's treatments for years. Rebecca felt tears on her cheeks. Why would you help me? Because you helped me. Because life debt is sacred to my people. Because you showed me kindness when no one else would. Draven straightened. And because I could use a partner. Someone I can trust. Someone who sees people, not things. He extended one massive claw. Rebecca looked at it. Then at Bristol, who nodded encouragingly. Then back at Draven. She took his claw. His grip was gentle. Partners, she said. Partners, Draven agreed. The station lockdown alert came 12 minutes after they left the research wing. Rebecca heard it over the corridor speakers while following Draven toward the docking bays. Director Park wasn't giving up easily. Attention all personnel. Security condition read. Detain the dragon and Rebecca Walsh. Use of force authorized. Draven's pace didn't change. He moved through the corridors with surprising grace for something so large. Bristol hurried alongside them, her face tight with concern. They're sealing the docking bays, Bristol said, checking her tablet. We have maybe 5 minutes before they lock us out completely. We don't need the docking bays, Draven said calmly. Rebecca grabbed his wing. What does that mean? How else do we leave? Draven turned to look at her. His golden eyes were patient. I told you. My kind are travelers. We don't need ships. Before Rebecca could ask more, security teams appeared at both ends of the corridor. 10 officers in tactical gear, weapons raised. The lead officer's voice boomed through a speaker. Dragon, stand down. Walsh, step away from the creature. Draven's laugh was low and dangerous. Creature, even now you cannot bring yourself to see me as a person. Last warning. Surrender or we open fire. Rebecca's heart hammered. The corridor was too narrow for Draven to maneuver. They were trapped. This was it. They would be captured and locked away, and everything would have been for nothing. Then Draven's scales began to glow, soft at first like coals warming, then brighter. Heat rolled off him in waves. The temperature in the corridor spiked. "Rebecca," Draven said quietly, "do you trust me?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Then hold on." Rebecca grabbed the ridge on his back. Bristol did the same. Draven's body tensed. The glow intensified until Rebecca had to squint against the light. The security officers opened fire. Energy bolts streaked toward them. Rebecca squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the impact. It never came. The bolts hit something invisible around Draven and scattered like water on hot metal. A shield. He was generating some kind of shield. "Impossible," someone shouted. Draven crouched low, his muscles coiled like springs. Then he launched forward, not toward the officers but upward. His shoulder hit the corridor ceiling with tremendous force. Metal screamed and tore. Emergency alarms wailed. Rebecca held on desperately as Draven smashed through the ceiling into the maintenance level above. Then through that ceiling into a cargo section. Then through that into open space. The station hull gave way like paper. Rebecca's scream died in her throat as suddenly there was no air, no sound, nothing but the vast emptiness of space all around them. She couldn't breathe. Her lungs burned. This was how she would die, but then she felt it. The shimmer around her body. The same shield that had stopped the energy bolts now wrapped around her like a second skin. Air filled her lungs. The terrible cold of space couldn't touch her. She could breathe. "What?" she gasped. "How?" "My kind evolved in space," Draven said. His voice reached her clearly despite the vacuum. "We generate our own atmosphere, our own heat. We are the ships and the travelers both." Behind them, New Terra Station grew smaller. Alarms still flashed across its surface. Rebecca saw tiny figures in the hole they had created. Security teams staring out at the impossible sight of a dragon flying through open space with 2 humans on his back. Bristol laughed. The sound was slightly hysterical. "That was the most illegal exit I have ever witnessed. They're going to have so many forms to fill out." "Let them try to catch us," Draven said. There was savage joy in his voice. Let them try. He flew through space like he was born to it. Which Rebecca realized he was. Stars wheeled overhead. Planets hung in the distance like colored jewels. She'd seen space through windows before, but never like this. Never so immediate and real and beautiful. "Where are we going?" Rebecca asked. "First, somewhere safe, somewhere they cannot follow." Draven's wings spread wide, catching invisible currents. "There is a place, hidden, where my kind have sheltered for years." They flew for hours. Rebecca lost track of time. The shield kept her warm and breathing, but her legs ached from holding on. Bristol had gone quiet, either from shock or exhaustion. Finally, Draven began to slow. Ahead, Rebecca saw nothing but empty space. No stations, no planets, no ships. "I don't see anything," she said. "Good. That means our camouflage still works." Draven flew toward what looked like empty nothing. Then suddenly they passed through something like water, and everything changed. A massive structure appeared. Not a station or a ship, but something organic. Like a coral reef grown in space, with passages and chambers carved into its structure. Dragons were everywhere. Dozens of them. Some larger than Draven, some smaller. Different colors. Different builds. All moving through space with the same natural grace. Rebecca's mouth fell open. "How many are there?" "Not many," Draven said sadly. "We were thousands once. Now we number less than 100. But we survive." He flew toward an opening in the structure. Other dragons watched them pass. Some called out in a language Rebecca didn't understand. Draven answered in the same tongue. Inside, the structure opened into a vast chamber. Platforms jutted from the walls. Other dragons rested on them. Draven landed gently on an empty platform. Rebecca and Bristol climbed off on shaky legs. The shield around them remained. Breathable air filled the chamber. "How is there air here?" Bristol asked. She was back to being a lawyer, trying to understand the rules. "We make it," Draven said simply. "Together, we maintain the atmosphere in our safe places. It is one of many things my kind can do that others thought impossible." An older dragon approached. She was deep purple with scars across her snout. Her eyes were the color of deep ocean water. She looked at Rebecca and Bristol with obvious suspicion. "Draven, you bring humans here? To our sanctuary?" "I bring the human who saved my life, Elder Senna, and her companion who helped us escape." Senna studied Rebecca for a long moment. Rebecca tried not to flinch under that ancient gaze. Finally, Senna spoke again. Tell me, why did you help him? Rebecca thought carefully about her answer. Because he was suffering. Because I could help. Because it was the right thing to do. Even knowing it would cost you everything? Yes, Senna's expression softened slightly. You understand life debt? I'm learning. Life debt is sacred to our kind. When someone saves you from death, you are bound to them. Not as slave to master, but as partner to partner. Equal, eternal. Senna looked at Draven. You chose well. Other dragons gathered around. A younger one, green as spring leaves, spoke up. Is it true? Did the humans at the station torture you? Yes, Draven said. Then why save any human? Another dragon demanded. Why trust them? Because Rebecca showed me that not all humans are the same. Just as we are not all the same. Draven's voice grew stronger. We have hidden for too long. We have let fear make us silent. But silence did not save us. It only made us invisible, easier to hunt, easier to hurt. What are you saying? Senna asked. I'm saying it's time to speak, time to show the galaxy what we really are. Not creatures, not animals, people, traitors, partners. Draven looked at Rebecca. She risked everything for me. I will risk everything for her. And maybe, if we're lucky, others will see what we can be together. Senna was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. You would reveal us? Bring our existence to the light? I would give us a chance to live in the open again. To reclaim what was stolen from us. It is dangerous. Hiding is also dangerous. We are dying in the shadows. Maybe it is time to try the light. Senna's laugh was dry. You always were bold, young one. Very well, but not yet. First you owe a life debt. First you must help your human. Her brother needs medical treatment, Draven said. I have a shipment of medicine bound for Haven's Edge colony. The payment will be enough. Haven's Edge? A younger dragon perked up. The mining colony? They've been cut off for months. Supply ships won't go there. Which is why the payment is so good, Draven said. And why we need to leave soon. Rebecca stepped forward. I want to help. I want to work with you. But I need to understand. What exactly do dragons do? How do you trade without ships? Draven settled onto his haunches. We are the ships. We carry cargo in dimensional pockets within our bodies. We travel faster than any human vessel. We can survive conditions that would destroy metal ships. We have been the galaxy's secret couriers for longer than most civilizations have existed. Why keep it secret? Because knowledge makes us valuable. Valuable things get hunted. Senna's voice was bitter. Our scales. Our bones. Our organs. All worth fortunes to the right buyers. So we hid, we became myths and legends. We let the galaxy forget we were ever real. Bristol had been quiet, but now she spoke up. If Draven reveals himself, really reveals what dragons can do, it could start a gold rush. Every hunter in the galaxy will come looking. Perhaps, Senna said, or perhaps the galaxy will finally recognize us as people. As partners. Perhaps they will see the value in cooperation over exploitation. That's a big gamble, Bristol said. All worthwhile things are, Draven replied. He looked at Rebecca. What do you think? Are humans ready to see us as equals? Rebecca thought about Director Park, about the research facility, about the casual cruelty she had witnessed. But she also thought about the workers who had sympathized with her, about Bristol who was helping them despite the risk, about her brother, who had always taught her to judge people by their actions, not their species. I think some are ready, Rebecca said. I think some never will be. But I think it's worth trying. Draven's eyes glowed with something that might have been pride. Then we try, together. He stood and stretched his wings. Come, we have a delivery to make, and a life debt to begin repaying. Rebecca climbed onto his back again. Bristol hesitated. I should go back to the station, Bristol said. Someone needs to handle the legal fallout, and I can do more good there, making sure they don't try to come after you. Thank you, Draven said. For everything, Bristol smiled. Thank you for making my career interesting. Try not to start an intergalactic incident. No promises, Draven said. Senna approached one last time. She touched her snout to Draven's. Fly safe, young one. And remember, once you reveal us, there is no going back. I know, Draven said. It's time. They left the sanctuary behind. Stars surrounded them again. Draven flew with purpose now, heading toward somewhere Rebecca couldn't see. How far is Haven's Edge? She asked. 3 days by human ship. 6 hours for me. Rebecca settled against his scales. They were warm and solid, real. She was flying through space on the back of a dragon. Her old life was gone. Her job, her home, her simple existence all vanished like smoke. But she wasn't scared anymore. She was excited. Ready? Draven asked. Rebecca smiled. Ready. They flew toward Haven's Edge, toward the future, toward whatever came next. Together. Haven's Edge appeared as a dark smudge against darker space. The mining colony clung to an asteroid like moss on stone. Its lights were dim. Too many were burned out or shut down to save power. Rebecca counted maybe 50 structures, most of them prefabricated modules that had seen better days. Doesn't look like much, she said. It isn't, Draven replied, but 300 people live here. They mine rare minerals that larger corporations can't be bothered with. Small profits, hard work forgotten by everyone, except us. Except us. They approached the main landing platform. It was empty except for one ancient cargo hauler that looked like it might fall apart if someone sneezed near it. As Draven descended, Rebecca saw people emerging from the buildings. Miners in worn suits, families with children, all of them stopping to stare at the impossible sight of a dragon landing on their station. Draven touched down gently. His claws scraped metal. Rebecca climbed off his back, her legs wobbling after hours of flying. The miners kept their distance, uncertain and probably frightened. An older man stepped forward. He had a weather-beaten face and tired eyes. His name tag read Colony Director Oren. What in the stars, Oren breathed. Is that a real dragon? Very real, Draven said. His voice made several people jump, and very willing to help. I understand you need medical supplies. Oren's suspicion melted into desperate hope. The plague. It hit us 3 months ago. Started with the children. Now 20 people are sick and getting worse. We've been begging for supplies, but no one will come. The shipping companies say we're too far out, too small to bother with. Not too small for us, Rebecca said. We have what you need. Draven's body shimmered. Rebecca still didn't quite understand the physics of it, but a dimensional pocket opened in the air beside him. Crates materialized, 10 of them, each marked with medical symbols. The colonists rushed forward. Oren checked the first crate and his eyes went wet. This is military-grade medicine. Top quality. This would cost us 10 years of mining profits. Consider it a gift, Draven said. A gift? But the contract said we owed 60,000 credits for delivery. The contract was written before I understood the situation, Draven said. He glanced at Rebecca. She nodded. Keep your credits. Buy food, buy equipment. Take care of your people. Oren looked like he might cry. Why would you do this? Rebecca stepped forward. Because someone helped us when they didn't have to. Because kindness should be passed on, not hoarded. The colonists carried the crates away carefully like they were made of glass. Children followed, chattering with excitement. One little girl approached Draven cautiously. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Are you scary? She asked. Draven lowered his head until he was eye level with her. Only to people who deserve it. My mom is sick. Will your medicine help? Yes. The girl reached out and touched his snout. Then she smiled and ran back to her friends. Rebecca watched the children gather around, their fear replaced by wonder. They wanted to touch Draven's scales, ask him questions, hear him talk. Draven was patient with them. He answered every question, showed them his wings, let them climb on his tail. For someone who had been tortured and nearly killed by sentient beings, he showed remarkable gentleness. You're good with them, Rebecca said quietly. I remember being young, Draven said, before the hunters came. Before we learned to hide, we were not always so afraid. Oren returned with a handful of miners. We can't let you leave without something. We're not charity cases. You're not, Rebecca agreed. But we're not taking your money. Then take this. Oren held out a data chip. Mining routes. Secret ones. Paths through asteroid fields and nebulas that avoid the big shipping lanes. Faster routes, safer routes. Worth more than credits to traders. Draven's eyes brightened. That is a fair trade. Knowledge for knowledge. And tell other traders about us, another miner added. We've got minerals that the big corporations ignore. But small operations might want them. Help us get connected again. We can do that, Rebecca said. They stayed at Haven's Edge for 3 hours, long enough for the medical teams to start treatments. Long enough to share a meal with the colonists. long enough for word to start spreading through the frontier communication networks. A dragon and a human, delivering medicine to a forgotten colony, refusing payment, showing kindness. The messages spread faster than any ship could fly. Over the next month, more requests came. A station that needed water purification equipment. A research outpost running out of food. A passenger liner stranded by engine failure, needing parts that normal supply ships said would take weeks to deliver. Draven and Rebecca took every job. They charged fair prices when people could pay. They worked for free when they couldn't. Word spread further. The Dragon's Mercy, people started calling them. The name appeared in frontier forums and trade networks. Stories accumulated. Some were true. Some were exaggerated. All of them built a reputation, but reputations attracted attention. Not all of it good. Rebecca was checking the message queue when she noticed the pattern. The big shipping corporations were talking about them. Not in public forums, but in coded business channels that Bristol had taught her to monitor. "Draven," she said, "we have a problem." He landed beside her on the small moon where they had stopped to rest. "What kind of problem?" "The kind where powerful people notice you exist. Look at this." She showed him the messages. Corporate representatives discussing the dragon situation. Concerns about unauthorized competition. Suggestions about eliminating the problem. Draven read in silence. His scales darkened slightly, a sign Rebecca had learned meant he was angry. "They see us as a threat to their profits. They're talking about pressuring stations to deny us docking rights, spreading rumors that you're dangerous, getting the trade authority to classify you as a hazard. Because we help people they ignore. Because we charge less than their monopoly prices." Draven's tail lashed. "Because we prove there's another way." Rebecca's communicator buzzed. Bristol's face appeared on the screen. She looked worried. "You two need to be careful. New Terra Station is lobbying the Galactic Trade Authority. They're claiming Draven is a public danger. They've got corporate backing. Big money pushing this. Like, how long do we have?" Rebecca asked. "The authority is scheduling a hearing in 30 days. If they rule against you, Draven will be declared an unregulated hazard. Any station can refuse you service. Any ship can legally fire on you if they claim to feel threatened." "They can't do that," Rebecca said. "He's a person. Legally, that's still being debated. The recognition of sentience is complex, and the corporations have very expensive lawyers." Bristol paused. "You'll need to appear at the hearing, testify, prove that dragons deserve full legal recognition." Draven was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "If I do this, if I reveal everything about my kind, there's no going back. Other dragons will be exposed, hunted, or protected," Rebecca said. "If the galaxy recognizes you as people, hunting you becomes murder. The galaxy is good at ignoring murder when it's profitable. Then we make it unprofitable. We show them that dragons as partners are worth more than dragons as parts." Rebecca grabbed his wing. "You said it yourself. Hiding in the shadows is slow death. Maybe it's time for the light." Draven looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, other dragons were hiding, living in fear, dying in silence. He thought of his family, of the life they should have had. "We need evidence," he said finally. "Proof that dragons have been part of galactic civilization for centuries. Proof that we're not animals or hazards or resources. Proof that we're people." "Where do we find that?" Rebecca asked. "The archives. On Central Hub. If records of dragon civilization exist anywhere, they're there." Bristol nodded on the screen. "I can get you access. But Central Hub is the galactic capital. Security is intense. The moment you arrive, everyone will know." "Good," Draven said. "Let them know. Let them see me coming. I'm done hiding." They flew toward Central Hub. It took 2 days of steady travel. Rebecca used the time to prepare. She wrote notes, practiced her testimony, tried to organize everything she had learned about dragons into something coherent, but mostly she worried. This hearing would determine everything. If they won, dragons might finally be free. If they lost, Draven could be declared illegal, hunted, killed, and it would be her fault for feeding him in the first place. "Stop," Draven said, interrupting her thoughts. "Stop what?" "Blaming yourself. I can feel it in how you hold on. The tension in your shoulders," Rebecca sighed. "If I had just walked away that night, you wouldn't be in danger now. If you had walked away, I would be dead. This danger, this fight, it's a chance at life. At real life, not just survival. Draven's voice was gentle. You gave me hope, Rebecca. Whatever happens next, that gift was worth everything. Central Hub appeared ahead. It was massive, a station the size of a small moon. Ships swarmed around it like insects. Rebecca had never seen so much traffic in one place. Ready? Draven asked. Rebecca checked the documents one more time. Testimony notes, evidence files, character references from every colony they had helped. It wasn't enough. She knew it wasn't enough. But it was all they had. Ready, she lied. They approached the station. Immediately, security ships surrounded them. Warning signals flashed. Weapons locked on target. Unidentified dragon, you are entering restricted space. State your purpose. Draven's voice was calm and clear. My name is Draven. I am here for my hearing before the Galactic Trade Authority. I come in peace, but I will not be turned away. There was a long pause. Then, you are cleared to approach Docking Bay 7. Weapons will remain locked on your position. Any threatening movement will result in immediate termination. Understood, Draven said. They flew through the swarm of ships. Every eye was on them. Camera drones followed their movement. News crews broadcasted from nearby vessels. The galaxy was watching. Draven landed in the designated bay. It was huge, designed for cargo haulers. He looked small in it, which Rebecca suspected was intentional. Make the dragon look less impressive, less threatening. Security teams surrounded them immediately, not pointing weapons, but ready to. An official in pristine uniform approached. Rebecca Walsh and Draven, you are required to report to Holding Area 12 pending your hearing. You will be separated during processing. No, Draven said simply. It's not negotiable. Then neither is my cooperation. We stay together or you can try to force me. But know that every camera in this bay is watching. The galaxy will see how you treat someone who came here peacefully. The official's jaw tightened. He tapped his communicator, had a hushed conversation, then nodded tersely. Fine, you may remain together, but you're confined to the holding area until the hearing. They were escorted through pristine corridors to a large waiting room. It was comfortable, at least. Soft chairs, food dispensers, large windows showing the galaxy beyond. Bristol met them there. She looked exhausted. The hearing is tomorrow, she said. Morning cycle. The Trade Authority has brought in representatives from 15 shipping corporations. They're all testifying against you. 15? Rebecca's stomach sank. They've spent the last month building a case, claiming you're reckless, dangerous, disrupting established trade routes. They have charts and graphs and expert witnesses. What do we have? Draven asked. Bristol smiled tiredly. We have the truth, and we have you. The hearing room was built to intimidate. High ceilings, rows of seats rising like an amphitheater. Everything polished metal and cold light. Rebecca felt tiny walking in. Draven had to fold his wings tight to fit through the doorway. Every seat was full. Hundreds of observers, news crews in designated areas, corporate representatives in expensive suits. Trade Authority judges sitting at a raised platform like ancient kings on thrones. The head judge was a tall alien with blue skin and too many eyes. Her name badge read High Arbiter Celeste. Rebecca and Draven took their position at the defendant's table. Bristol sat beside them, already reviewing her notes. Across the aisle, 15 lawyers representing the shipping corporations whispered among themselves. High Arbiter Celeste struck a resonator. The sound rang through the chamber like a bell. This hearing will determine the legal status of the entity known as Draven, and whether his activities constitute a hazard to established galactic trade. We will hear testimony from both sides before rendering judgment. The prosecution went first. Their lead attorney was a human named Patterson. He had silver hair and a voice like smooth oil. Your Honors, this case is simple. The creature calling itself Draven has disrupted legitimate business operations across 3 sectors. He operates without proper licensing, without safety inspections, without any oversight whatsoever. He is a danger to regulated commerce and potentially to innocent civilians. Patterson projected holographic displays, charts showing profit losses for shipping companies, graphs of irregular trade patterns in frontier regions, testimony from station officials complaining about unpredictable dragon behavior. We don't dispute that this creature is intelligent, Patterson continued. Intelligence alone does not grant citizenship rights. Many intelligent species are regulated for public safety. We're not suggesting cruelty, simply proper control and oversight. Rebecca felt her hands clench. Proper control meant cages, meant treating Draven like property. Patterson called his first witness, Director Park from New Terra Station, the man who had been torturing Draven. He walked to the stand looking confident. Director Park, you supervise the research on Draven. In your expert opinion, is he dangerous? Absolutely. He's unpredictable, violent. He destroyed station property during his escape. Endangered lives. And before his escape, he was contained for how long? 6 months, during which he never displayed sentience. Never spoke. Never showed any signs of higher intelligence. So his sudden claim of sentience seems suspicious. Very suspicious. I believe he learned to mimic speech from exposure to station personnel. Like a parrot learning words without understanding meaning. Bristol leaned over to Rebecca. He's lying through his teeth. But he sounds credible. More witnesses testified, all saying similar things. Dragons were dangerous, unpredictable, needed regulation. The corporations presented studies about uncontrolled biological hazards in trade spaces. It went on for hours. Rebecca felt hope draining away with each testimony. The judges' faces revealed nothing. Finally, Patterson rested his case. Your Honors, we ask that Draven be classified as a regulated entity, confined to approved trade routes, subject to regular inspections, prevented from undercutting established businesses with his unfair biological advantages. High Arbiter Celeste turned to Bristol. The defense may present its case. Bristol stood. She looked small facing the enormous chamber, but her voice was steady. Your Honors, this hearing isn't about trade regulations or business disputes. It's about whether dragons are people or property, whether intelligence and consciousness grant rights, or whether power and money determine personhood. She called Rebecca as the first witness. Rebecca walked to the stand on shaking legs. The chamber felt even bigger from up here, hundreds of faces watching her. Bristol's questions were gentle. Tell us how you met Draven. Rebecca took a breath and told the story. The night shift. Finding him starving. The choice to help despite the consequences. She didn't try to make herself sound heroic. Just honest. Why did you help him? Bristol asked. Because he was suffering. Because I could do something about it. Because leaving him to die would have been wrong. Patterson stood for cross-examination. His smile was sharp. Miss Walsh, you were fired for theft, correct? I was fired for taking food. Food that wasn't yours. To feed an animal that wasn't your responsibility. To feed a person who was being tortured. You didn't know he was a person at the time. I knew he was suffering. That was enough. Patterson's smile faded slightly. He tried a few more questions but couldn't shake her. Rebecca held firm. She had done the right thing. No lawyer could change that. Bristol called more witnesses. Colonists from Haven's Edge testified about how Draven had saved lives. Station workers who had seen him be gentle with children. Trade partners who praised his reliability and fairness. But the most powerful moment came when Bristol turned to Draven. The prosecution claims, you're not truly sentient, that you're mimicking intelligence. Would you like to respond? Draven rose. His full height made several people in the front rows lean back nervously. He walked to the witness stand. It wasn't designed for dragons, so he simply stood before it. I am Draven, son of Sereth, grandson of Corvin, heir to the sky merchant lineage dating back 3,000 years. My people have traded among the stars since before most of your civilizations invented the wheel. His voice filled the chamber, deep and ancient. We carried your messages, delivered your goods, connected your worlds. We did this in secret because we learned that revealing ourselves brought hunters, brought death. My mother was killed for her scales, my siblings for their bones. I watched it happen. The room was silent. Even the corporate lawyers had stopped whispering. I chose silence because speech had only brought pain. I let myself be captured because I had nothing left. I let them torture me because I had stopped caring whether I lived or died. Draven looked directly at Rebecca, until one human showed me compassion. She risked everything for a stranger she thought was an animal. That act reminded me that not all beings are cruel, that kindness still exists, that maybe, possibly life was worth living again. He turned back to the judges. You ask if I am sentient. Let me prove it not with words, but with knowledge. What followed was remarkable. Draven spoke for 20 minutes without pause. He discussed quantum mechanics and ancient philosophy. He recited poetry in 6 languages. He solved complex mathematical equations in his head. He described the history of galactic trade in detail that no one had recorded publicly. The judges leaned forward, fascinated. Even Patterson looked unsettled. I am not a creature, Draven said finally. I am not property. I am not a hazard. I am a person, and I am asking with all respect to be treated as one. The silence lasted for several seconds. Then High Arbiter Celeste spoke. Does the defense have additional evidence? Bristol smiled. Yes, Your Honor, I call Elder Senna of the Dragon Council. The chamber doors opened. An elderly dragon entered. Senna, who Rebecca recognized from the sanctuary, but she wasn't alone. 3 more dragons followed her. Then 3 more, then more. 10 dragons entered the hearing chamber, all different colors and sizes, all walking with quiet dignity. The room erupted in shocked whispers. The judges themselves looked startled. Senna approached the stand. Forgive the dramatic entrance, Your Honors, but we felt it was time to be seen. Who are you? Celeste asked. I am Elder Senna. I have lived for 470 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have carried cargo and passengers across this galaxy for longer than most species have been spacefaring. She looked at the corporate lawyers. We have been hiding, living in fear, letting our kind slowly die out rather than risk exposure. Another dragon stepped forward. This one was bright red with golden eyes. I am Tarek. I deliver medical supplies to war zones that no ship will enter. I have saved thousands of lives. A green dragon joined them. I am Vesper. I carry messages between isolated colonies. I connect people that your corporations ignore because there's no profit in it. One by one, the dragons introduced themselves. Each one proved they were intelligent, capable, and already deeply integrated into galactic society. They had simply been invisible. We have been among you all along, Senna said. Some of us take forms you recognize. Others hide in plain sight. We have watched you, worked with you, helped you, all while living in fear that you would discover us and destroy us. Why reveal yourselves now? Celeste asked. Senna looked at Draven and Rebecca. Because they showed us that hiding forever is not living. Because one human chose compassion over fear. Because if we don't speak now, we may never get another chance. She turned to address the entire chamber. My people are dying. Not from disease or age, but from hiding. From loneliness. From living as myths instead of people. We number less than 100 across the entire galaxy. If you classify us as hazards, as things to be controlled and regulated, we will disappear completely. But if you recognize us as people, as partners, we could thrive again. The prosecution table looked panicked. Patterson stood hastily. Your Honor, this is clearly orchestrated. A political stunt designed to manipulate emotions. Is it a stunt to ask for basic rights? Senna asked. Is it manipulation to prove we're people? Patterson tried to recover. Even if we accept their sentience, they still pose economic disruption. They operate outside normal trade regulations. Because your regulations were written to exclude us, another dragon said. Every rule, every license requirement, every safety standard assumes ships and crews. We are neither. Bristol seized the moment. Your Honors, the prosecution claims this is about safety and regulation. But look at the evidence. Dragons have been operating safely for centuries. The only danger they pose is to corporate profit margins. She projected new holographs, records Bristol had pulled from the archives, ancient trade agreements between dragons and other species, historical accounts of dragon merchants, treaties and contracts going back thousands of years. Dragons are not newcomers disrupting established order. They are the established order. They were here first. They built the trade networks that your corporations now monopolize. Recognizing their rights isn't radical. It's correcting an injustice. The chamber erupted in argument, corporate representatives shouting objections, observers debating, news crews broadcasting frantically. The judges called for order, but the chaos took minutes to settle. Finally, Celeste stood. We will recess for deliberation. This hearing is more complex than anticipated. We will reconvene in 3 days with our judgment. The resonator rang again. Everyone stood as the judges filed out. Rebecca felt drained. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of not knowing whether they had done enough. Draven lowered his head beside her. You were brave up there. I was terrified. Bravery and terror often coexist. He glanced at the other dragons, who were surrounded by curious observers and news crews. They came. I didn't think they would. They came because you showed them it was possible, Rebecca said, because you stopped hiding. Bristol joined them. That went better than expected. The prosecution didn't anticipate the other dragons. That surprise testimony carries weight. Will it be enough? Rebecca asked. Bristol hesitated. I don't know. The judges looked genuinely moved. But they're also politicians. They have to consider economic pressure, corporate lobbying, public opinion. This decision affects more than just dragons. They were assigned quarters on Central Hub during the recess, comfortable rooms with a view of the stars. But Rebecca couldn't enjoy any of it. She paced, checked news feeds, watched as the galaxy debated dragon rights in real time. Public opinion was divided. Some supported dragon recognition, others feared economic upheaval. Many simply didn't know what to think. Draven spent time with the other dragons who had testified. They gathered in a public garden on the station, drawing crowds of curious onlookers. Rebecca watched from a distance as Draven talked with his people. He looked different around them, more relaxed, more himself. On the third day, they returned to the hearing chamber. It was even more packed than before. People had been camping outside for days to get seats. The judges entered and the room fell silent. High Arbiter Celeste looked tired. This decision had clearly weighed on her. This has been the most challenging case in my 30 years on the bench. We have reviewed all evidence, consulted legal precedents, debated among ourselves, and we have reached a decision. Rebecca held her breath. Draven's scales pressed against her shoulder. First, we find definitively that dragons are sentient beings, fully intelligent, self-aware, and capable of moral reasoning. The evidence is overwhelming and inarguable. Relief flooded through Rebecca, but Celeste wasn't finished. However, sentience alone does not resolve all questions. We must consider trade regulations, safety standards, and the concerns of established businesses. Therefore, we rule as follows. The chamber was utterly silent. Dragons are recognized as people under galactic law. All rights and protections of personhood apply. Hunting dragons is murder. Trading dragon parts is trafficking. Previous research conducted without consent is declared criminal. Cheers erupted from parts of the crowd. Corporate lawyers looked stricken. But, Celeste continued, and the room quieted again. There's more to this decision. High Arbiter Celeste continued speaking. We recognize that dragons operate in ways current trade law did not anticipate. Therefore, we order the creation of the Draconic Trade Alliance. Dragons will have their own regulatory body, with representation on the Galactic Trade Council. They will set their own safety standards appropriate to their biology and capabilities. Bristol grabbed Rebecca's arm, her face lighting up with excitement. Furthermore, Celeste said, we invite human partners to join this alliance as navigators and representatives. This partnership between dragons and humans represents a new model of cooperation that may benefit the entire galaxy. The corporate lawyers were standing now, objecting loudly. Patterson's face had gone red. Your Honor, this is unprecedented. You're creating an entirely new trade category. The economic implications are your concern, not ours, Celeste interrupted coldly. This hearing was about rights, not profits. Our decision is final. This court is adjourned. The resonator rang. The judges stood and left while the chamber erupted into chaos. News crews rushed forward. Corporate representatives argued among themselves. Observers cheered or booed depending on their views. Rebecca stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. They had won. Not just survived, but actually won. Draven made a sound deep in his chest. It took Rebecca a moment to realize he was laughing, crying and laughing at the same time. We did it, he said softly. After centuries of hiding, we're finally recognized as people. The other dragons surrounded them. Senna's eyes were wet with tears she didn't try to hide. I never thought I would live to see this day, Senna said. I thought we would fade away into myth. But you, young Draven, you and your human partner, you brought us back into the light. Bristol was already on her communicator, fielding calls from news outlets and trade organizations. She looked overwhelmed but happy. This is going to change everything, she said. The entire structure of galactic trade just shifted. And you two are at the center of it. Rebecca felt dizzy. What do we do now? Whatever you want, Draven said. We're free. The celebrations lasted for hours. Well-wishers approached from all over the station. Some were genuinely happy about the ruling. Others wanted to network, to be part of this new alliance. A few corporate representatives even approached with business proposals, trying to get ahead of the change. But eventually, The crowds thinned. Rebecca and Draven found a quiet observation deck overlooking the galaxy. Stars stretched in every direction. Infinite possibilities. I need to go home, Rebecca said quietly. Just for a visit. I need to see my brother. Make sure he's okay. Of course, Draven said. I'll take you. You will? Rebecca, did you think winning a legal battle meant we would separate? You are my partner, my friend. Where you need to go, I will take you. He paused, then added with a slight rumble of amusement. Besides, I've been meaning to tell you something. Dragons can create portals, short-range dimensional gates. We don't need to fly everywhere. I can take you to Earth in moments and bring you back just as quickly. Rebecca stared at him. You could do that the whole time. Why didn't you mention it? You never asked. And I enjoyed the long flights. Gave us time to talk. She laughed despite herself. You're impossible. I prefer surprising. True to his word, Draven opened a portal right there on the observation deck. It shimmered in the air like heat waves, and through it Rebecca could see a familiar landscape. Her old neighborhood on Earth, the small apartment building where her brother lived. They stepped through together. The transition was instant and disorienting. One moment on Central Hub, the next on a street Rebecca had walked 1,000 times. It was evening. Street lights were coming on. A few people were walking home from work. They stopped and stared at the dragon that had just appeared in their neighborhood. That's going to take some getting used to, Rebecca muttered. Her brother lived on the 3rd floor. Rebecca ran up the stairs, Draven following more carefully. The building wasn't designed for dragons, but he managed. She knocked on the door. Footsteps approached. The door opened. Her brother looked healthy. His color was good. His eyes were bright. The treatments had worked. Rebecca? He stared at her in shock. What are you doing here? And is that a dragon? Yes, this is Draven. It's a long story. Her brother looked from her to Draven and back again. Then he started laughing. Only you could get fired from a space station and come back with a dragon. Come in, come in. I want to hear everything. They spent the evening telling stories. Rebecca's brother hung on every word. He asked 100 questions. Wanted to know what space felt like, what other planets looked like, how dragonflight worked. The news has been covering the trial, he said. I saw you testify. I was so proud. My sister changing the galaxy. I just fed someone who was hungry, Rebecca said. You did more than that. You saw a person when everyone else saw a thing. That takes courage. Later, after her brother went to bed, Rebecca and Draven sat on the roof of the apartment building. The city sprawled below them, lights twinkling like artificial stars. Thank you, Rebecca said, for bringing me home. For everything. You gave me a reason to live again. Bringing you home is the least I can do. What happens next? For us, I mean, the alliance is forming. Other dragons are coming out of hiding. Where do we fit? Draven was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about that. There will be others who can do the official work. The politics and regulations and organizational structures. But you and I, we work best on the frontier, helping people that others forget. Making deliveries to places that are too small or too far or too poor for the big companies. You want to keep doing what we've been doing? If you want to, we could do something else. You've earned the right to rest, to stay here with your brother. Rebecca looked at the city. It was familiar, comfortable, safe. A month ago, she would have given anything to come back here and never leave. But now it felt small. Not bad, just limited. There was a whole galaxy out there, people who needed help. Places she had never seen. Adventures waiting to happen, I think, she said slowly, that I want to keep going. Keep partnering with you. Keep making a difference where we can. Draven's eyes glowed with happiness. Then that's what we'll do. They stayed on Earth for 3 days. Rebecca made sure her brother was truly stable, set up automatic payments for his ongoing treatments, said proper goodbyes to old friends. When they returned to Central Hub, the Draconic Trade Alliance was already forming. Dragons were coming forward from hiding all over the galaxy. Some had been living in secret for decades. Others had been alone for so long they had forgotten what community felt like. Humans were volunteering as partners. Not all of them for good reasons. Some wanted fame or fortune, but many genuinely wanted to help, to be part of something new and important. Training programs started, cultural exchange initiatives, new trade routes opening up. The galaxy was changing slowly but surely. Rebecca and Draven attended the official Alliance launch ceremony. It was held in a massive auditorium on Central Hub. Representatives from dozens of species attended. The Galactic Council gave speeches about cooperation and progress, but the best moment came when Elder Senna asked Draven to speak. He stood before the assembled crowd. Rebecca stood beside him. "A year ago," Draven said, "I was dying in a cage, alone, forgotten, convinced that my species had no future. Then Rebecca Walsh chose compassion over safety. She fed a starving dragon and changed everything." He looked at Rebecca. "I was dead and she brought me back to life. Not just my body, but my spirit. Every moment since has been a gift. And I hope that gift spreads to every dragon who has been hiding, to every person who needs help, to everyone who thinks one act of kindness doesn't matter." The applause was thunderous. Months passed. The Alliance grew stronger. Rebecca and Draven continued their work on the frontier. They delivered supplies to isolated colonies, carried messages between distant outposts, helped people that the big corporations ignored. Their reputation spread. When someone was in trouble, when a situation seemed impossible, people said, "Call the dragon's mercy." Rebecca learned more about dragon culture. Draven learned more about human resilience. They became not just partners, but true friends. The kind of friendship that crosses species boundaries and becomes something entirely new. One day, while making a delivery to a research station, they received an unusual message. A distress call from an unknown location. Someone had found a creature, injured and alone. They didn't know what it was or if it was sentient, but they had heard Rebecca's story. "Will you come?" the message asked. Rebecca looked at Draven. He was already spreading his wings. "Ready for another adventure?" she asked. "Always, my friend. Always." They launched into space, heading toward the unknown. Below them, the research station grew smaller. Behind them, a trail of changed lives and saved communities. Ahead of them, another person who needed help. Rebecca thought about that night a year ago. The choice she had made. The consequences she had faced. Losing her job had felt like the end of everything, but it had been a beginning. The start of something bigger than she could have imagined. She had lost a job for feeding a starving dragon. In return, she had gained a partner, a purpose, and a way to change the galaxy. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness echoes across the stars. Sometimes feeding a stranger is enough to start a revolution. Sometimes one person choosing compassion over protocol is all it takes to prove that there's a better way to live. Draven flew faster, eager to help someone new. Rebecca held on tight and smiled. This was her life now, not the one she had planned, but the one she had chosen, and she wouldn't change it for anything. Behind them, the Draconic Trade Alliance continued to grow. Dragons were returning from hiding. Humans and dragons were forming partnerships across the galaxy. The old model of trade was being replaced by something better, something based on cooperation instead of exploitation. But for Rebecca and Draven, the real work remained the same. Helping people. Making deliveries. Showing up when others wouldn't. The distress signal grew stronger. They were getting close. "What do you think we'll find?" Rebecca asked. "I don't know," Draven said. "But whatever it is, we'll face it together." They flew on through the stars. Two partners. Two friends. Two people who had found each other in the darkness and decided to bring light wherever they went. The galaxy was vast, full of people who needed help, full of creatures that others had forgotten, full of possibilities for those brave enough to choose compassion. Rebecca Walsh had made that choice in a dark research facility, feeding a stranger who was dying. Draven had made that choice when he spoke after years of silence, risking his safety for someone who had shown him kindness. Together they had changed everything, and they were just getting started. The distress signal led them to a small moon orbiting a gas giant. An outpost clung to the surface, barely more than a few buildings and landing pads. As they approached, Rebecca saw a figure standing outside, waving. They landed gently. The figure was a young woman in a maintenance uniform. She looked scared but determined. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I didn't know who else to call. There's a creature in the storage bay. It's injured. I've been giving it food and water, but I don't know if that's enough. I could lose my job for this, but I couldn't just let it die." Rebecca and Draven exchanged a look. They both smiled. "Show us," Rebecca said. "We'll help." As they followed the young woman into the outpost, Rebecca felt a sense of rightness. This was how it had started. This was how it would continue. One person at a time, one act of compassion at a time, building a galaxy where kindness mattered more than profit, where people helped each other not because they had to, but because they could, where a human and a dragon could fly among the stars together, partners and friends proving every day that different species could work as one. The future was uncertain. Challenges remained. Not everyone in the galaxy had accepted the changes. Some still saw dragons as resources. Some still prioritized profit over people. But Rebecca and Draven had started something that couldn't be stopped. A movement. A new way of thinking. A reminder that at the end of the day, compassion and kindness were always the right choice. They entered the storage bay. In the corner, something large and feathered huddled in shadows. It raised its head as they approached. Golden eyes met theirs. Rebecca smiled. "Hey there. We're here to help." And so it began again. Another life saved. Another connection made. Another story that would spread across the galaxy. The story of how Rebecca Walsh lost her job for feeding a starving dragon, and how what he did after left everyone speechless, not because it was impossible or magical, but because it was simple. He became her friend, her partner, her companion among the stars, and together, they showed the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or weapons or money. Sometimes it's just kindness, one act at a time, one life at a time, one choice at a time. That's how you change everything.